Hey everybody, Pastor Scott here with a real brief update or reflection or response, whatever we want to call it, after your responses to this week's lesson about the divided kingdom or the split kingdom and the story of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, also Solomon, and the kind of that generational split that we saw from Israel in the one kingdom into the two different kingdoms. Thank you for your thoughtful responses. It probably goes without saying that I was really excited during that first video. It's probably obvious to you that's one of my favorite stories or one of my favorite lessons that we go through. And I know I threw a lot at you. Now, some of the different things that you guys responded back to, I asked you what was the choice that Rehoboam was faced with, and you all picked up on it. He had the choice that he could either treat his subjects well and fairly, which was something that his dad Solomon had not really done a very good job of, as we talked about in the video, or he could treat them harshly. And as we picked up on, he decided to treat them harshly, thought he would really kind of lord it over them like, I'm in charge and there's nothing you can do about it. And that resulted in Jeroboam, Jerry, as we call him, kind of taking the allegiance of the people and dividing into the two different kingdoms. So you definitely picked up on that. I asked you about the idea or the tension between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and how they both sort of thought, well, we're in the right and the other ones are wrong and God's on our side. And is there a time in history that sort of mirrors that? And you picked up on the idea of times of war. Some of you talked about the world wars and how the allies would think that we're right and the other side would think, no, we're the ones who are right and you guys are wrong. One of you even picked up on the idea of the Civil War here in our own nation's history, and how everyone thought, well, we're the ones who are trying to maintain things. We're the ones who are trying to do it right. You're doing it wrong. So definitely that same sensibility when people of a single culture or people of a similar culture really kind of push back against one another. So way to go on that. Good thoughts on that. One of the other things that I just asked about, like we normally do, hey, what was weird? What was strange? What caught your attention in this? One of you talked about how their names are so similar, why we call them Ray and Jerry, because they are so similar. I always think that's funny too. And I wonder, like, is that a coincidence? Is that actually what happened? Is that actually what went on? And all the records that we can find say that, yep, their names were just really similar, and that's very coincidental, but that's why it's there. And I always think that's funny. And the other thing, a couple of you picked up on, you thought it was really weird that Solomon had so many wives. Yeah, it is weird. He had like 1,000 wives. Like, that seems like a really weird family dynamic, right? But a lot of that because of, just to give some historical idea of why that happened. So since Solomon was a king, it was oftentimes very common for allegiances to be made like politically through a marriage. So many of those women who were wives of his would have been some connection with another nation or another culture or another kingdom or whatever, and they were making these allegiances to bring to unify them through marriage. So that's where a lot of that would have come from. But at the same time, yeah, it's really weird that he had so many wives. Thanks for another great week. We're looking forward to this week and kind of continuing on with things. We'll be moving on through history a little bit farther along. And again, be paying attention for info on when we begin to resume in person. That's coming down the pipe. We still don't know quite when, but we will communicate that when we can. Thanks, everybody.